Hello and welcome to Bleed Extra with me, Ryan Whyte, freelance graphic designer, and I'm joined by Jacque Moodley, permanent art director.
I'm permanently an art director. I sleep art directing, I wake up art directing, I make breakfast art directing, I make love art directing.
Yeah. Emphasis on the directing. Anyways, the Bleed Extra, what is this, you may ask? So this is the supplementary show to Bleed Advertising, creative talk without the Kool-Aid. This is basically a weekly Zoom call where Jacque and I catch up with each other and we talk about advertising and what's happening in our lives. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, if you want to know what kind of cookies Jacque's been eating, I'm sure he will share his latest brand. Pretending I know a thing or two about astrophysics, we can go into that. So speaking of astrophysics, we were discussing it last week on the show and it took a turn for the best.
I don't know, man. I don't know if deGrasse Mike Tyson would agree with us. But we tried our best, as people who would be scholared in the astrophysics department. I don't know, man. I don't even know where you study that. MIT?
MIT, yeah. What was that?
Oh, very different from AAA.
Oh yeah, different from MIT. They're both TLAs at least.
What's a TLA?
3-letter acronym.
Oh.
Yeah, which is different to 2-letter acronym, which is also a TLA. Anyways, so after our recording last week, you sent me a little article. Which I didn't bother to read.
Cool. I'll read articles that I don't read. I'm just like, man. There you go.
No, I had every intention of reading it. I just didn't get around to it. So should we save that for next week? I'll actually read it. Okay. So is there anything you want to round up from last week, or can we move on to the next quote?
We can move on, man. Let's give it our best.
Okay, cool. So I've got another quote here. Knowing how to think empowers you far beyond those who know only what to think.
David Ogilvy.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I like it. Knowing how to think empowers you something over people who know what to think.
Yeah.
Okay. I agree with it.
Yeah, what I enjoy about this is, I'll kick it off this time. You usually always kick it off. So what I enjoy about this, it ties into the quote that we had last week, which was, imagination will often carry us to worlds that never were, but without it, we go nowhere. So this is quite cool. Knowing how to think empowers you far beyond those who know only what to think. So again, it's saying that your imagination is way more powerful. If you know how to think, you can apply beyond what you can apply in everyday life. So the kind of things that you can achieve in your mind outweigh what you can actually do in the real physical world. So the people who know what to think, they only apply it in everyday life. That's what that tells me. Because because if someone says this is what you need to think, they usually will have a practical application to that. So that's what it's telling me. But if you know how to think, that unlocks a greater door, and that's your imagination, your mind, and its application in your mind as opposed to in a practical physical world.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Don't you feel like sometimes in advertising, like you get you start to see patterns, right? I always felt this. Like, I think there's like some point in my career where like I figured it out. I was like, when you get like a new brief on your table and there's about 3 or 4 ways you can tackle this thing. You can either do like the metaphorical way, or like, a metaphor, a simile way, or there's like a certain way. I think after a while in advertising, and like obviously people are different, but whatever, but you figure out certain tricks. You know what'll work. It's like there's 4 things and you kind of learn it on the job. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things where you go, okay, I know what the most efficient way of tackling this thing is, and I'm going to play in this metaphor space. I'm using TV as an example, or even design. With design, you know, like kind of what looks good. If you put you put these two letters together and you put like a gradient, or you know, what's that join thing in Illustrator? It's always going to look sick. The A feeds. You know what I mean? You learn these like little tricks, and I know it sounds bad to say that we kind of like figure out these tricks and we keep using them, but it is also a way to be like efficient. And you go, well, I know it's going to work. Let's not beat around the bush. Because I remember as a junior, you sit around and you like stay late for hours and you try to like you were saying, kick a ball around or whatever, and try to come up with this amazing concept. And then you get like the older teams or like, you know, the more senior guys who come in, they got the brief for 2 hours, they nail it, they go for lunch to bowls club. I know that's like a lot of topic, but I think there's like, after a certain point in doing this job, you kind of figure out the tricks, man. The trick is to like do the opposite of what you know, right? So it's always like, here's these 4 tropes or these 4 things I know how to do. Let's do the opposite of that. And that's kind of just like the thing. But that's, I feel like, knowing how to think. Sorry, people are constructing things here in my house. Not in my house, downstairs.
Put it into a beat later. So yeah. I'm on board with you, man. So it's not the trick that works, it's you making the trick work for you.
Okay.
So in other words, people think, like for instance, losing weight, you know, there's a trick to it. No, you learn the trick and then you allow that trick to work for you. So instead of you relying on a cheap trick, you are saying, I know how this trick works and I'm going to be master of the trick, as opposed to me giving all my power to this trick. If that makes sense. Hey?
Give your power to a trick.
No, so like yeah, you know, when they have like a magician who does the whole card trick and whatever, people think that's the trick, but then you know that you can back rationalize the trick. But if you have a way of contextualizing that trick and maybe adding a few other tricks, and then you do it in front of an audience and you've got TV cameras, then that trick's working for you, not just going to flea markets doing like this little cheap trick, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah. No. So you're not giving all your power to this trick where you're just like, you're relying on the trick. You're like, okay, cool, trick is cool, but I can do so much more than this trick.
Yeah, but that's really, I think the trick teaches you the basics, right? So you know the art of like, what's the word, distraction or whatever it is. So you go, keep people focused here, do something here, this will work. And then you take that principles you learn about like distraction and smoke and mirrors or whatever, and you just keep reapplying it. It's the same trick. Making a person disappear and making a jumbo jet disappear is the same trick. Yeah. It's just the scale. You know, if the scale goes up, there's a few more elements you need to come in. You need like a team of people to like hide the jumbo jet underground, whatever the fuck it is, or move the camera and the audience. So the jumbo jet's still there, but you know what I mean? I don't know how David Copperfield did it, but I remember watching that special and I was like blown away. But it's the same trick that's been performed for years. It's just a bigger scale.
What I'm saying is, like, if a campaign comes in, you're not going to instantly go into the brief saying, I'm Jacque Moodley, I'm going to do hard lights, I'm going to deep etch, and I'm going to like make sure a little bit of the guy's head is overlaid with the holding shape, and that's my trick, and I'm just going to continue doing that. Do you know what I'm saying? That's relying on the trick too heavily for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get you. Sometimes people just do. People have one. There's like, look, not to like name names, but we know like there was a time in radio advertising where everything was like really over explained and really drawn out and whatever. And because it worked for like 2 or 3 years running, like Grand Prix and shit were won, people fucking did that. People went, the mole on his cheek looked like the crust of a burnt toast when you've left it in for too long. Yes. And it went down lips and the saliva dripped around his chin. That reminded me of Mount Rushmore without the head. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of like very fucking overwritten. Yeah. And that shit killed at awards doing that, because that was the trick.
Yeah. And there was always a twist at the end. It wasn't actually a man's face, it was a dog, and it was for like dog food. They always do that. They go over descriptive and they like explaining this elaborate, like, you think it's going to be this hot model, and then right at the end it's like a dog that's like whatever. That was also another thing, like subverting your expectations and then like throwing in twists at the end.
Yeah, man. I really have to give it to writers. Like sometimes I give writers shit because they like literally will work half an hour a day and they fucking done those, and then art directors have to like sort it out. But sometimes to write those radios, man, to write like really good radio must be fucking difficult because you must get like another writer on the show, whatever. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I've tried to think of radio so many times, and like, you know, I've done some stuff that was okay, but like to come up with anything that's like really fresh, because we've had radio longer than we've had TV. You know what I mean? Like radio ads have been here. I don't know how people kind of like think of fresh radio, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the height of if I ever like want to like win an award and like really prove something to myself, I'm gonna try to write a radio and see if I win an award with radio as an art director, I'm done, bro. I quit. I'm done.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Jar Awards are coming up, entries for the Jar Awards, so you might want to.
We have the Jar Awards have a radio section. I thought they were just podcasts. Effectively, this is a long, drawn out radio ad.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so if copywriters, if their tagline is for a half an hour day, like art directors, graphic designers, like for a 26-hour day.
Exactly. For a long weekend.
For a long weekend. Okay, so a long weekend's coming up. What is it? Women's Day.
Shout out to the women.
Yeah, and we recorded our first podcast on Women's Day last year.
Really? Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh wow, it's been a year. Congrats, dude.
Okay, so let's go into some of those tricks. So you mentioned metaphors, similes, juxtaposition is another one.
Juxtaposition. People dancing, always a good one. Just get people at the park and let them dance, man. That's it. Oh, you like this beverage / dessert / flour / rice?
Yeah.
Dance for it.
Yeah. So like the cool thing is so juxtaposition is basically a comparison but doing opposite, right? So that there was a trend a lot where they used to juxtapose a lot. They'll have like a tall skinny guy next to like a short squat guy, and then draw the comparisons, and then it'll also be like that over elaborate voiceover, and they draw out these personas and stuff. But I mean, yeah, sometimes it's a bit of a mixture. So hyperbole as well. So like exaggeration, I think is very common where you just exaggerate. And I think what's quite interesting about exaggeration, I think it's taken a turn and it's decreased a little bit because of legislation. So for instance, something like for a 25-hour day, they'll be like, no, we only have 24 hours in a day. If you say 25 hours and this guy's going to be eating sugar and being running, then we're going to have like lawsuits coming for us and all of that. So I think exaggeration as a technique or as a tool has taken a bit of a back step.
Do you think PC-ness has come into advertising and like fucked shit up? Because you think of some of our favorite ads, they probably wouldn't fly today. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe not our favorite ads, but some of the ads we saw growing up.
The classics.
The classics. I mean, I think like PC culture, they would not fly if they were to go through the ACA these days, or what do you call it? Those test groups. I hate those things. Focus groups. They would not fly because it's like, I mean, I had a campaign recently that went through a focus group, and because one of the words was like a difficult word to pronounce, they were like, no, this whole ad is nonsense because we don't this word. This one word fucked the whole thing up, and they're like, let's start again and come up with a new campaign because the campaign line was the word.
Yeah.
And the whole campaign to get scrapped, and we had to come up with a new campaign purely because this word was just like difficult to pronounce. It wasn't like very clear what it meant, even though the whole ad unpacked what it meant. They were like, no, this word. We don't like this word.
So you
focus groups.
You say some ads wouldn't fly today, so I'm going to throw out art. You say some ads wouldn't fly today, so I'm going to throw out some ads from the 90s, and you let me know if they're going to fly today. All right. So the lunch bar Macatini ad. So this was a log throwing competition. where there's the Scotsman and he throws. So this is also a good example of exaggeration and energy. And he throws a log and it goes a certain distance. Then there's the short, like little like Zulu kid. He comes and he throws the log way further than this old, big, strong guy. So there's juxtaposition, there's exaggeration, and there's like, yeah. And then what is the line? Macatini. I'm a Macbeth. And then the other guy says, I'm a Macatini or something like that.
And now contestant number 7, Macatini.
Cadbury's lunch bar with nuts, toasty rice, caramel and wafer, all in Cadbury's dairy milk chocolate.
Did you see that, Jimmy?
You threw that miles away.
That's nothing. What's this? Duck? Fetch.
Those ads ran for a while, and I love them.
I love it.
And like, it was like, it's cool. This is like a little black dude in his kilt. Okay, it's from. I actually knew one of the guys who was in one of those ads because it was like there were like 2 different Macatinis. If you remember, there was like the first guy had like the big eyes, and I think the second guy, I think it was Luwazi.
Yeah.
Like he was like the last Macatini.
Yeah, PC culture might kill that ad as well as law and legislation, because they'll be like, no, how can this kid throw a log just because he eats lunch bar? Now he's got this energy. It's going to give false perceptions, and I don't think that kind of an ad would fly.
I mean, even the ad, what is it, the Cecil ad, where the kid like fills up his little Ferrari.
Yes.
Like on the car, vroom, and then like he gets to the pump, and he folds it up, and the fucking car fucks off. I think they would have been like, it's not a real Cecil pump. Obviously, it's a miniature Cecil pump. There's no petrol. Kids aren't allowed to pull petrol. We can't advertise Ferrari because it's not one of our brands. We need to use like a brand that South Africans are familiar with. It's unattainable for people to expect to have Ferraris. Do you know what I mean? Like when PC, I want to say PC culture because there's a lot of PC culture thing that is done right. But I think when being politically correct, or I don't know if politically correct is the correct term for what we're saying, but it kills the concept. If the too many chefs thing is a real thing, man. Like everyone's adding a pinch of this and a pinch of this and a pinch of this. Eventually the dish tastes horrible. You don't need 17 spices.
You're talking about Strat, right?
No. The loaded gun when it comes to strategy. I love strategists. I was chatting to Ethan yesterday about strategy, and it took like 2.5 weeks to come with a strat, and he's got like 2.5 days to roll out the campaign.
Yeah, they're great. Strat are great.
I went ready with the strat yesterday, by the way.
You
see, again, you handed me the loaded strat gun.
Yeah. You pulled the trigger. You pulled the trigger.
Some of my best friends are strategists.
I think that's the name of the episode. People who want to defend themselves. I got strategist friends. So anyways, you remember the Castrol ads?
Castrol. Oh, with the 2 old guys and then like the knowledgeable, like older black gentlemen.
Yes.
Yeah, and they always like think they know what's going on, and then like the black guy's like, he just like laughs at them or whatever because they fuck. Those would not fly.
You really think so? Because like you say,
with the one episode, I felt like it was a series, but the one ad where Asian guy gets lost in his Mercedes, and then, for some reason the fucking kung fu fight ensues, and like the old black guy is like doing crazy shit. He's like spinning on like the tire. He pulls out the dipstick as like a sword. Wild shit, bro. And then I was the Chinese guy. Oh, there was another Chinese ad with a Chinese ad. Was
To ensure that Douglas green wines are always the very best they can be, We don't limit ourselves
Douglas Green, please!
to the grapes of just one estate. Instead, we search the winelands for the best of the best, so you don't have to.
Which way, Douglas Green?
Douglas
Wild.
Green, without the
Hey?
R, it was just an L. Douglas Green.
Clean. And then we're gonna fucking get shut down. But
Oh,
this is
no,
an ad.
no.
No, put the ad in so they know it's not us that's racist. It's
Okay.
advertising. Anyways, yeah, dude, that would not fly because it was Douglas Green. And obviously, someone at the agency was like, you know who can't say Douglas Green? A Chinese guy. And then the other guy was like, oh shit, we should make an ad where the Chinese guy can't find it because he's saying it fucked up.
Yeah.
And then that was the ad. The ad was the fact that this guy couldn't pronounce Douglas Green. And it was around, and Douglas Green was all around him because I think it was like a wine that wasn't like it wasn't from a vineyard. It was just like a wine you could buy wherever. I don't know what the premise was, but the premise was this Chinese guy driving around trying to find Douglas Green wine, and it's everywhere, but because he pronounces it fucked up, everyone's like, there, and he goes through all like stuff.
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, that ad, yeah, I'm sure it didn't go through. It went through the checks pretty easily, probably at the time.
I mean, I still today work on an account or two where not a lot of representation when you go present. Do you know what I mean? Like the boardroom is pretty, Caucasian, and you just go. I think this is cool because like I understand the culture or whatever. I come from this like era. It's also an age thing. To be fair, there's age and there's race. Like sometimes it's not race. Sometimes it's just an age thing. Sometimes people are too old to get whatever the fuck you're trying to present. And that being said, I'm not even a young guy anymore. I'm not like a young creative. Like there's younger guys than me now in the industry or the agencies that go, here's a dope concept and this is dope, and I'll tell you why, because I'm young and I've experienced this and I know what's happening now. So I also need to like check myself and go, maybe I don't understand what these guys are saying, but like you also have to trust them and go, well, if they say it's dope and this is what their people or their age group thinks is the shit, you have to trust them, man. Because there's plenty of times where I was young and I was like, guys, if we do this, this will be cool. And people didn't trust me. People were like, nope. And then, they made stale ads.
Yeah.
It's trying to be tough, man.
I think there needs to be a bit more courage or bravery when it comes to those kind of things, because I mean, if you look back at that lunch bar ad, yes, there's the exaggeration and there's the juxtaposition of two guys of different race, one guy Scottish, and what made that ad funny was you get like a Macintosh, who's a Scottish guy, and you get a Macatini, which is like, it's like South African. So that kind of thing is cool, and it's like, I understand don't play into stereotypes, but I think maybe there's a tasteful way of doing it and a bit more of a subtle way. Like, I just think the culture we're in now, it's like, no, don't even go there, don't even try. But then it's like, we've seen it done well elsewhere in movies, in series, where it's they're not even playing into the card. They're just like, we actually don't care about this thing now. We're just doing it and it's fine. It's normal. We're not even playing into a trope or a stereotype for any particular reason. It's just happens to be there. Why can't we do that?
Yeah, I think even if you take like the shows and series example, I was having this chat the other day, and I was like, I literally opened Netflix, for instance, and like there were 3 shows with Indian girls as the lead. There was like AP Bio, or it's not the lead, but there's AP Bio, where there's like an Indian girl at the forefront. There's Never Have I Ever. There's like another show where it's like, and it wasn't like my algorithm was like, this guy must be brown. It was literally a top show. For a second, I mean, they're all, weird enough, they're all just trying to fuck. But whatever. That's not the point. The point is like, their stories are being told. I think Mindy Kaling produces one of them. And obviously, Mindy Kaling came from like The Office and all that stuff. But now she's been able to tell her story and stuff. And I feel like the same for advertising. Like, for a while, it was like, yeah, like, people dancing for like food and shit. And everyone made jokes about it because that's what the people who weren't from that demographic thought that these people did. They got a loaf of bread and they would dance. Because obviously, every time you fucking buy a loaf of bread, you go home and dance. But when those people got a voice, and the people who were in the ads were in the agency, and they got a voice and said, this is not what the fuck we do. This is what we do. And the ads became more culturally relevant. And then I think social media had a part to play, because then social media could also check you. Social media would be like, what the fuck is this? We don't do this. Why do you guys keep making us dance in ads or whatever? Like, this is not this is almost degrading, and we don't want to be represented by brands like this anymore. And it was like it's a very recent shift. Like I've noticed it maybe like 4 or 5 years. It's not like it happened like 10 years ago. It was like recent. I mean, like 2012, like things were like starting to shift a little bit, and the people who were in the ads were also in the boardrooms and were making decisions. And so that's not only just agency side, that's client side. Client side, they had people in the boardrooms that started to represent who they were trying to sell to. And that made a difference with like how culturally appropriate it was. And you couldn't just have two people go, hey, a Chinese guy running around looking for Douglas Green is funny, because not that it was Chinese people in advertising, I've noticed. But anyways, do you know what I mean? Like people in the boardroom would go, that's a little bit fucked up, because the guys at the heads of the table would be like, yeah, this is cool, I guess. They don't know, they don't care. It takes somebody in those boardrooms to stand up. And sometimes it's not the creator. Sometimes it's one of the clients that goes, guys, I don't think this is fucking right. And like, shout out to clients who like stand up for shit, stand up for good work, and get clients who stand up for like stuff that is maybe not culturally appropriate. I think we got into a very different topic.
I don't know. The last thing I'll say about that is, okay, cool. That's one thing where you got to be like, you're talking about like Bollywood kind of dancing. Is that what you're talking about?
No, but like
to dance and stuff, because you mentioned dancing, so I was like, where does that come from?
Exactly. No, Bollywood. No, there's this whole thing about custard. I don't know if you remember. There's this whole outcry about people dancing for custard back in the day. But back in the day, I mean like 2 years. But I think ever since that thing, stuff has changed, man, and it's good.
No, I agree. I mean, but the thing is, like, if you do have like a music video where people happen to be doing a Bollywood style dance, like I know Jason Derulo's got a music video out now where they're doing like Bollywood and stuff. I don't know, is that tasteful? Is it appropriating? That's when the PC culture comes in. And I know Basement Jaxx they did that song Romeo, where everyone broke out into like Bollywood thing. It's still a beautiful medium if it's tastefully done. And no one's complaining about, well, not that I know of, about the Basement Jaxx music video, which happened like 15 years ago, whatever. I still think it's a cool music video. It's a cool song. But then, you know, there's always going to be one camp that's like, no, you're appropriating. That's our culture. And it's like, we don't all do that. I'm just like, no one's saying that. We just like the medium.
Yeah, but I think the fact that like 15 years ago, let's be honest, like 15 years ago, yeah, there wasn't a lot of representation. There wasn't a lot of brown. If you didn't listen to Bollywood music, you would never see a Bollywood video. Do you know what I mean? There was kind of like that. Like MTV wasn't fucking playing, I don't know, Hrithik Roshan's latest Bollywood single, or whatever the fuck. But Basement Jaxx, in a way, can I tell you something? Like sometimes I find appropriation is helpful. So my example has always been Eminem, right? Eminem effectively appropriated hip hop, right? But when Eminem did it, it became this massive genre. Like nobody can not say that Eminem didn't help spread the gospel of hip hop. Do you know what I mean? Like as me, a brown kid in like Alberton, at some point, Eminem came on the scene. He did 8 Mile. He was battle rapping. And I was like, oh shit, here's this white boy doing what's inherently a black thing. And I know this is appropriation at its best, but it also allowed me to be like, well, I can be a rapper. If this guy can do it, I can do it. Because it seemed like it was something that was only applicable to this culture. And it's not like this culture stood on their ground and said, you guys are not fucking coming into this house, because they had Beastie Boys, they had like all types of guys doing it from the 80s. But only when Eminem did it and made it as global and massive as he did, he allowed everyone, brown kids, there's like kids in Israel or Palestine that are also like rapping and like telling their story, like, and you know, yeah, everyone has hip hop in their countries, everybody now. And South African rappers, Indian rappers are like out now because, hey man, we can do this if he did it. So appropriation is bad, but if it's done right and it's done given props to like the forefathers and the people who created something. So the Basement Jaxx video, I think, as an example, was done tastefully. Like they weren't stealing from Indian culture, but they were putting it on screen. And then everyone started seeing it. They're like, wow, what is this? It's more beautiful. It's so beautiful. I want to dance like this. You know how many times I went to like, we had like a party at Y&R once, and like one of the girls did like the Basement Jaxx Bollywood dance. Like it just became this thing that like, people love it, man. I've had so many discussions with like ladies at an agency, and they're like, Jacque, when are you getting married? I want to wear a sari to your wedding. I was like, first of all, I'm not that kind of Indian. But secondly, a little bit weird. You just want to come to the wedding so you can play dress up.
Just do it at home on the weekend if you want.
Yeah.
In the process, go home.
If that's what you want to do. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, man, appropriation when done properly is okay. That's my statement on this. You can quote me, people will kill me, but that's appropriation is a strong word. But like, yeah, referencing the culture.
Well,
to highlight, and it just if it's done for the right reasons. If you're doing it obviously to sell a product, whatever, but if it's done like in a tasteful way, because I know we have to finish up, but all like popular ads and stuff that's cool references culture, but if it's done tastefully and like then it's cool. I think there's a really good ad by Apple or by Beats by Dre where they talk about like blackness, and you love my blackness, and you love me winning these awards, and you love my culture, and you love my voice, but do you love me? And I thought that was such a like tasteful way of going. We've sold products to Black people, using Black people, using them. But this was the thing that goes, I'm still selling products, you're still fucking selling headphones. But at the end of the day, they go, yeah, you're going to use me, you're going to put me in the front of your cereal box, or you're going to put me on the cover, or you're going to put me on a billboard. But do you care about who I am? I thought like, that was like a little change. I was like, oh, it's so self-aware. It's like an advert going, we know we've been using Black people to like make things cooler. Because as soon as you stick a Black person on like a billboard and they like drinking your drink or they wearing your shoes, your cool points go out the fucking window. And it has to be cool. Otherwise, nobody's going to buy it. And who's the coolest people on the planet? Fucking Black people. They really are. And they know it. And then brands know it. And that's why we go, oh, we need to put a Black person here using our Swatch watch, or whatever the fuck it is. Or like, let's get a Black lady with Vertilago, because that's super hip now. People with like skin that isn't like perfect or whatever, like the typical perfect, like imperfection is now in. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, man, if it's done tastefully, I think, or if it's a representative of the culture and it doesn't offend people, then stereotypes and that sort of thing are welcome.
Yeah, in ad speak, we call appropriation paying homage.
Yeah.
So there we go. So yeah, you guys can follow us at bleed_advertising on Instagram. Where can we find us elsewhere? Yeah, this way you can.
.com is like the hub, the nexus, the nucleus of this operation, where you can find all the channels, the RSS feeds, the Spotify's, the Apple Music podcast. I'm not an Apple guy, but yeah, go to the website and then all the shit's there. It's the easiest place to go. Otherwise, bleedadvertising@gmail.com and tell us your favorite appropriation ad.
Cool. That was bleedadvertising.com.
Yeah. Also Instagram is.
Yeah. But just to make sure, it was bleedadvertising.com, right?
Yes.
Bleed advertising. I'm just saying bleedadvertising.com a lot and finding excuses to say it. Yeah. How do you pronounce bleedadvertising.com?
Bleedadvertising.com.
All right, cool. We're gonna leave it there.